Hello guys, this is Gayatri Neki and I'm an intern in LEXIS and Company and you're watching LEXCLIQ. In this video, I will talk about a landmark judgment, that is Independent Thought versus Union of India, and what was the impact of that particular judgment. So, Independent Thought versus Union of India was a landmark judgment, landmark case decided by Supreme Court of India in 2017. The case dealt with the issues of marital rape, which was not recognized as a criminal offense in India at that time. The petitioners in the case were a group of NGOs who sought to challenge the constitutionality of the exception 2 of Section 375 Indian Penal Code, which provides that sexual intercourse by a man with his wife who is not under 18 of age is not rape. The petitioners argued that the exception violated the rights of women under the Constitution of India as well as international human rights standard. They contended that marital rape was a form of violence against women and that it was discriminatory to deny married women the same legal protections as unmarried women. They also argued that exception perpetuated the myth that marriage was a license for a husband to have sex with his wife whenever he wanted without her consent. The Union of India, on the other hand, defended the exception, arguing that criminalizing marital rape would disrupt the institution of marriage and undermine the traditional values of Indian society. It also contended that there were practical difficulties in enforcing such a law given the private nature of marriage, marital relationship. The Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision, held that the exception 2 of Section 375 IPC was unconstitutional and struck it down. The court held that exception violated the right to equality guaranteed under Article 14 of the Constitution as well as the right to life and personal liberty guaranteed under Article 21. The court held that exception was arbitrary, discriminatory, and perpetuated gender stereotype. It also held that exception was not based on any reasonable classification and that the government had failed to provide any rational basis for its retention. The court also rejected the government's argument that criminalizing marital rape would undermine the institution of marriage. It held that marriage did not imply that a woman had surrendered her right to bodily integrity and the sexual intercourse within marriage must be consensual. The court observed that criminalizing a marital rape would send a strong message to society that sexual violence was unacceptable and would help to change the attitudes of people towards women. The case also broader implications for women's rights in India. It highlighted the need for legal reforms to address other forms of gender-based It was significant for several reasons. First, it recognized that marital rape was a form of sexual violence and a violation of women's fundamental rights. Second, it struck down the exception to Section 375 of IPC, which had been in place since 1860 and had perpetuated the myth that a husband had a right to have sex with his wife whenever he wanted. Third, it affirmed that Constitution of India guaranteed equal rights to men and women and that discrimination on the basis of gender was unconstitutional. In conclusion, the Independent Thought versus Union of India case was a significant milestone in the struggle for women's rights in India. Thank you. This was all from my side. Thank you for watching.